This is the best of the regulars with Jordan and Colin on Talk Sports Radio, Extra 90.5.
Oh, we have a special guest in the studio.
Goldfinger, he's the man with the Midas touch.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Here he is.
Such a cold finger.
Often imitated, never duplicated. Our good friend, Brian Goldfinger of Goldfinger Personal Injury Law. Thank you so much for coming in today. Right on time, 10:30 as usual.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. Happy holidays. Happy New Year, both of you.
I was going to say, it's been a long time. I think the last time we had you in, we were talking about the Summer Olympics.
We were. You know, it was the end of the summer caught up with me, and then I had a new baby. So I've been very, very busy with that. And it's just been keeping me up at night and keeping me, I'm adjusting well to new fatherhood, but, it takes up a lot of time, that managing in practice.
I was going to say, congratulations, first and foremost. Is this child number 2?
This is child number 2.
Okay.
Child number 2.
So how have you noticed a difference between child number 1 and child number 2?
There's no off time. So before you can come home and, mom or dad, we can each take our turns. But now you got to play man-to-man defense. You know what I mean? So there's no more, it's a bit more challenging, and there's absolutely no off time. There's no off time, and it's challenging. But, I'm just telling things that other parents certainly know. So
yeah, I'm sure a lot of them have been there. Brian Goldfinger is our legal analyst. He's on the Peterborough Roundtable, brought to you by Rocky Ridge Drinking Water Limited, Peterborough's water cooler company, 100 Rubridge Street, across from GE Canada. And again, what have you been up to lately? You said, okay, adjusting to fatherhood, but other than that, you bumping the grind on the legal side or what?
Yeah, it's this time of year, slip and fall season. So you notice with the weather today, like it's kind of raining, but it's snowing and things are kind of melting. You don't know if it's freezing or not. A lot of people are just falling on the roads. Although there might not be a lot of snow, there's slick, there's black ice. It's just keeping us very, very busy at the office.
Brian, I got to tell you, yesterday at my building, I am leaving. I'm getting off the curb. I almost ate it. I almost wiped out, feet coming up from under me. There was no salt on the walkway. Would I have had a case if I had fallen and hit my head? Because I was thinking about that as I was rolling. I'm like, wait a second. There was no one around. It was early in the morning. I almost wiped out walking off my curb right outside my door.
Well, it's funny you should say that because you're a young athletic guy. You play lacrosse at a very, very high competitive level.
Right.
You have the balance, stamina, and flexibility to stay up on your 2 feet and not hurt yourself. A lot of our listeners might be, getting up there in age.
They look at that, though?
They might not have the same dexterity, flexibility, or strength as you do. So it becomes very dangerous. And I got to tell you, breaking a hip for somebody who's a bit older, that's a very, very serious injury. Fracturing an ankle, I was just meeting with a client in Ajax yesterday. They fractured their ankle really badly getting out of a car in a parking lot. And you're out of commission for a very long time. So in your case, if you're suing the municipality or the city of Peterborough in this case, the standard of negligence is much higher than, say, that of a private property owner. Regardless, if you are a private property owner, you have to show at the minimum that you have maintained your property for winter maintenance so that invitees to the premises or people using the premises, so it's safe for them walking by.
Is there a timeline that they have in order to get that done?
Different municipalities have different, bylaws in terms of clearing your snow off your sidewalk. But there's no set law in terms of the snow drops on your, if you're a private property owner, your private walkway or parking lot. There's no set timeline. You just have to show that you reasonably clean it in a reasonable period of time. What that reasonableness is determined upon A, the weather, and B, what the court has to say. So if you don't have a proper system of inspection in place, say for a parking lot you own a McDonald's and nobody comes out there to shovel the snow or the walkways and nobody's taking care of it, then a court might look at that and saying, you're running a busy McDonald's restaurant here, nobody's looking after your snow or ice or sanding or salting, there's a problem here. But if you show you have a reasonable system of inspection and maintenance in place, these guys come out, an hour after snowfall or so, you should be okay, provided that they do a good job. And the completeness of their job is also subject to scrutiny.
Brian Goldfinger, personal injury law. He is our guest today. He's our legal analyst here on the Regulars. Now, you're someone who does a lot in personal injury law. So when there is a heavy snowfall, when there is, ice on the roads, are you secretly saying, okay, don't clear the snow today. Don't clear the snow.
Never say that. I never.
You don't have
say
the dollar signs in the eyes?
No, not at all. Because when I meet with people and they're seriously injured, look,
you get invested in it.
I get invested in it, and they're sad stories. We represent people who are very seriously injured, and their lives will never be the same. No amount of money. If I could tell you, I'll give you $1 million. You lost your leg. Here's $1 million. That'll never make you whole.
No.
And now I'm a new father. You can never lift your daughter or your son properly again. And no amount of money will ever make you whole. There's no degree of compensation that'll ever say, you know what, I got what's just here. It's just not fair. So I never think along those lines. It's very difficult for people who've been seriously injured.
Now, slip and falls are one thing. Also, car accidents very big at this time of year, right? There was that terrible mess on the 401 the other day, which was like a 100-car pile-up or something like that.
By Bowmanville?
Yeah.
I think, 100-car
kind of in that area. Yeah. And you deal with car accidents too, right?
All the time. So what we see very frequently right now, on the 115, from time to time, they don't plow it or it's not sanded or salted properly, or one car doesn't have snow tires on and they skid out of control and then they hit another vehicle. These chain reaction collisions happen all the time, and we get those calls all the time. And then especially on the 115, you got that big ditch in the middle there. So you have the, one collision with the vehicle, so that's one impact, and the next thing you know, your vehicle ends up in the ditch, which is a separate collision, separate impact. Multiple traumas is very difficult.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I check out your website, Goldfinger Personal Injury Law. Again, check it out. And there was a blog talking about a car accident case that was just settled after, 13 years? And I think what struck to me was just how slow sometimes the wheels of justice end up going.
Yeah, I tweeted about this today at Goldfinger Law. There was a great radio interview, not by me. It was from another lawyer, I think in the Ottawa area, and she has a medical malpractice case on the go, and they call her up, and her trial date is supposed to be on this day, and it's a fixed date, and she goes in, and there's no judge there. They didn't have a judge to hear the case. So you have that problem not only in the criminal justice system. There's a case out there, R.V. Jordan, that talks about the delay in hearing criminal matters and alleged criminals getting off because their cases are delayed. But it also trickles down to the civil justice system. So the article you read, you're correct. It's about a case that took 13 years from the date of the accident to the date of the judge's final verdict. 13 years. That's a long period of time, and that's a sad state for our civil justice system and also our criminal justice system, that cases aren't being heard in a proper amount of time.
Is that a peculiar thing, or is that something that consistently happens where you're looking at maybe 8 to 10 years before?
I would say 13 years is an exception. It's not the rule. Having said that, though, there is a noticeable delay in having actions proceed through the court. Certainly, the more complicated the matter, the longer, the more court time that needs to be allocated, the more difficult it is perhaps to get a judge. Here in Peterborough, judges come in from Ottawa. They come in from Oshawa. They come in from all over town to hear cases. So, we don't have enough judges here in town, let alone across the province. So you'll have judges. It's not Peterborough specific. I was in Kitchener where the judge came in from Mississauga not too long ago. So these judges, they need to travel just because there aren't enough of them.
Would you ever want to be a judge?
No.
Never ever?
No, it's a hard job. It's a thankless job, and you don't have the support staff you think. When you think of a judge, you think of a nice, luxurious office, people serving you. You say, I need this copied. Will you please copy it for me? There's just been cutbacks in the system such that A, judges need to travel, B, it's not as luxurious as you perceive the job to be, and you don't have that clerical support that you would think a judge would have. It's a hard job.
What would you actually have to do in order to become a judge?
Well, you have to practice law for a certain amount of time,
right,
and then you have to apply to the judicial committee. And you have to go through a vigorous application process, show you kind of know your stuff, go through some interviews, know some people in very high places, and bada bing, bada boom, you're a judge.
Kind of like Uncle Phil off Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He was my favorite judge.
Well, Uncle Phil had to run. It's different in the United States. You actually have to run. If you remember that episode of Fresh Prince.
And George Jefferson, he's running against, too.
That's right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
So that's the difference between the United States and Canada in the judicial system. Here, judges are appointed. And in the United States, they are elected.
Oh, interesting. Colin?
I got to ask you about basketball, Brian. 'Cause
Yes.
I know you're a big fan.
Okay,
I know
let's
you
get
love
on to
the
the sport.
Raptors.
Fun stuff.
This is great to listen to, and I love this kind of conversation. But I wanted to ask you really quick about this team because I'm a huge basketball fan. And the way I look at the Raptors right now, they're a nice team. I really like DeMar DeRozan, the way he's playing. It just seems like, for me, they got to start beating, or at least competing more with teams like Cleveland and Golden State and showing that there's not a huge gap between those two teams for me to really get invested in them. What are your thoughts on the Raptors right now?
Well, they had a big win last night or 2 nights ago against the Celtics.
Yeah.
And the Celtics, to your point, I think they're 0-10 against the top 6 teams in the NBA. Here's what you got to understand about the Raptors. A few years ago, when teams would come to Toronto, it was like, remember when you were in school, you had a PA day?
Yep.
You know, it's like a light, easy day. It was like a light, easy game. Now teams, when they come to Toronto, they're studying, and they're studying hard, preparing for like it's their final exam. Now Toronto, they're finally seeing what it's like to be the hunted as opposed to being the hunter, and they're constantly getting other teams' best shot, and they're doing a great job scouting the Raptors. They know that they're led by DeRozan and Lowry, and they know what Jonas can do. They know what the other guys can do. So to the Raptors' compliment, they are getting other teams' best shots. I agree with you that they need to compete with Cleveland, but after the Kyle Korver trade, I got to tell you, I don't think anyone's competing with Cleveland.
I know. I think that's a hidden move that no one's talking about. Kyle Korver with the Bulls. I'm a big Bulls fan. He was a great three-point shooter. He's been great in Atlanta for a while. That's a really good hidden pickup, I think, for them.
Yeah, and they got him for nothing. They got him for like Mo Williams, who is, on his last legs in the NBA. So I don't think they can do anything to compete with Cleveland. There's been a lot of talk about the Raptors going after Paul Millsap.
Yeah.
I think that the asking price for Millsap is going to be too high. And then Atlanta, if you just take a step back from basketball and you look at Atlanta, they're renovating Phillips Arena. Okay, they need to sell luxury boxes for next year. They can't be perceived to be as sellers as opposed to buyers. They already have problems filling in the seats in Atlanta. I don't think that they're going to be moving Millsap. They need to hold on to that chip to at least get some seats and tell their fan base that we are committed to winning. I think the move, when you swing, I like swinging for the fences. The move is going after Boogie Cousins in Sacramento. So
that I like.
Everyone likes it. Not everyone likes it, but he is a bona fide superstar. Millsap's great. Cousins is a bona fide superstar. But the problem with Cousins is he's a bit of a head case. He really is. But I really think his experience with USA Basketball, playing with DeRozan, playing with Kyle, he tweeted out NBA vote like Lowry or DeRozan. I think playing in a winning environment under Coach Casey, that'll change him. And I also think that the media attention he would get playing in Toronto would be like nothing he's ever seen playing in Sacramento. With all due respect to the media in Sacramento, I don't think you can compare a national media scrum that you'd get in Toronto compared to a Sacramento Kings media scrum where you're lucky to get maybe 2-3 reporters following a losing team.
Oh, do you think that would be a good thing for a player like DeMarcus Cousins?
I
that
do.
He is in that bigger spotlight?
I think being in a winning environment, because Sacramento's never been a winning environment, I think playing with his fellow Olympians, Kyle and DeMar, would be helpful. And I just think that a change of scenery would be helpful. And I think that he would realize, wow, these are the big leagues now. I'm playing in a big league town, and I have a legit shot at playing for a championship. I think he'd get his head together, because I think these guys quickly realize that it's a bit more about the money. Look at Joe Johnson. He just picks up paychecks wherever he goes, but he's never had a legacy. And I think guys look at him and look at other players similar to him and say, I don't want to be that guy. I can pick up a paycheck, but I want a bit more than that, and that's winning a championship. In order to win a championship, you got to screw on your head right and fall into a system.
We're chatting with Brian Goldfinger of Goldfinger Personal Injury Law. This is the Peterborough Roundtable, brought to you by Rocky Ridge Drinking Water Limited. It is 10:44. We got a couple of moments here left, and just looking at the NBA's Western Conference, I mean, you've got a pretty compelling race. Golden State, of course, the favorites at this point, but San Antonio and Houston not too far off either. And Houston in particular might be surprising some people.
Yeah, the Raptors are lucky to be in the East, because in the West, you don't want to touch anybody. So Houston, they just shoot threes like crazy. They're amazing. San Antonio with Popovich, they're fantastic. Russell Westbrook is having, an Oscar Robertson-like season.
Yes.
He's averaging basically a triple-double. The Warriors are a super team. And even like the lower-level teams like the Utah Jazz, and I use them as an example, I hate when the Raptors play the Jazz. I do. The game slows down to a grind. You got to play at their pace. You have to rely on your superstars to find that other gear, because if you don't, you're going to lose. So to be in the Western Conference and to go through that grind is going to be difficult. And that's why, again, I think Cleveland, they're the certain favorite to win the title, because the only tough matchup I see for Cleveland might be Toronto if they give them a game, might be Boston, but Cleveland's so far ahead of everyone in the East, there's really not much competition. They're going to be resting while everyone in the West is going to be, getting tired, fighting each other off.
Boy, this sounds like the same narrative we've been talking about in the OHL, Colin, does it not?
It
With
does.
The West beating itself up?
It really does. And I think all you have to prove you're the Raptors right now, Brian, is can you compete with Cleveland? You don't have to beat them in a series, but you got to have 6 or 7 games where you're looking at those two teams saying, wow, okay, they had a legitimate shot in some games to take this team down, and they might have been able to swing the series in their favor. I don't expect them to beat LeBron James as long as he's healthy, but as long as you can strike a little bit of fear, because when Cleveland comes into Toronto now, they're not fearing the Raptors still.
No,
They've never really made a case to be that legitimate team that can knock them off.
I'll give you a great story about fear. When the Raptors had Biombo, he had an amazing quote.
Yeah.
He said, "I fear no man, but I fear lions." And I love that. Because Biombo, he grew up, seeing lions, in his town. Is unbelievable. So when they asked him, "Do you fear LeBron James?" he said, "I fear no man, but I fear lions." The Raptors don't have that guy anymore. They don't have a guy who perhaps would strike the fear into anyone on Cleveland. Biombo used to be that guy. They don't have that guy. I can't see the Raptors with the team they have now and a healthy Cleveland, with Channing Frye shooting the three as well as he does, and now Kyle Korver. I can't see them making a dent in Cleveland, and I hate saying that. But you know what? If they make it to another Eastern Conference final, I'd be satisfied.
Yeah, I think you have to
satisfied.
be. Because remember what this team was before this run, before Casey got here and Lowry and DeRozan were stars. I mean, we're talking about this team barely being able to make the playoffs and sell out the arena.
Yeah, we're talking about a 20-year history without a 50-win season until their 20th or 21st year, which is a really, really, really sad state.
If you're Toronto, you got to make it to the conference final and maybe hope Cleveland gets nipped early, maybe by a team like Indiana or something like that, Maybe. I just think of matchup-wise, I think the Pacers actually play well against the... I'm a bit of a Pacer fan, I should point that out. But
I was really worried about the Pacers when they made the acquisition of Jeff Teague, and they got another guy. I just like their pickups with Paul George and...
Al Jefferson.
Yeah, Al Jefferson, Teague, and Miles Turner. I thought they were a good team, but they just haven't been performing this year.
They haven't. They've won 5 in a row now, and they're 2 games over 500, so maybe. Brian, hey, if somebody wants to get in touch with you at Goldfinger Personal Injury Law, how can they go about doing that?
Go to the website, goldfingerlaw.com. Always email me at Brian, BRIAN, at goldfingerlaw.com, or give me a call at 1-877-730-1777.
We did get one text for you, 705-874-9050. Our man Dave the Bullet Mustang, he's asking if you can help Colin trademark his nickname, the George Street Gigolo. What would he need to do to go about doing that?
He needs, you know what? He needs a trademark and patent lawyer or a patent agent. I don't.
Can you do that? You don't do that stuff?
I don't do that. It's like asking me to represent you, say, for a murder trial or something like that. I don't do criminal law.
Damn it.
But I can certainly point you in the right direction.
And you can
Beautiful.
You can regurgitate some Johnny Cochran lines too, and
Yeah.
we'll go through it.
Yeah.
Brian Goldfinger, he's our good friend. Thank you so much, and come back soon.
I'd love to be back. Thanks for having me.
All right, that is Brian Goldfinger of Goldfinger Personal Injury Law. We'll post all his information on our Facebook page. Check it out.
Another weekend is upon us, so it's time to reflect on the week that was. This is the best of the regulars on Talk Sports Radio, Extra 90.5.